The morning sun rose over New Sol Colony like it had for the past 15 years. Dr. Kim Hanna walked through the halls of the Galaxy Children's Home, listening to the sounds that always made her smile. Young voices speaking dozens of different languages mixed together in the dining hall. Some children had blue skin, others had scales, and a few had tentacles instead of arms. But they all laughed the same way when they played together. Hannah stopped at the window overlooking the playground. A small human girl named Park Yeji was teaching a group of alien children how to play hopscotch. Next to them, a tall, blue-skinned boy from the Altair system was showing others how his people danced. This was why she had given up her military career 20 years ago. This was what peace looked like. "Dr. Kim, the morning reports are ready," said Nurse Lee Solme as she approached with a tablet in her hands. Hannah took the tablet and smiled at the numbers. 812 children from 43 different species, now called the orphanage home. Each one had lost their parents to war, disease, or accidents across the galaxy. Each one had found a new family here on New Sol Colony. "Teeny problems during the night?" Hannah asked. "Just the usual. Little Kato had nightmares again, but Teacher Nam sat with him until he fell back asleep. The vegan twins are still having trouble with the earth food, but Cook Choi is working on new recipes for them." Hannah nodded. Every child here had their own special needs. Some needed different kinds of air to breathe. Others ate foods that would poison most species. A few could only sleep in complete darkness or a bright light. But somehow, they all made it work together. Commander Park Ji-ho entered the main building just as the children finished breakfast. His small defense force of 30 soldiers kept the colony safe, though there had never been any real threats. Most species respected what the humans were doing here. Taking care of children who had nowhere else to go was something everyone could understand. "Morning," Dr. Ji-ho said with a tired smile. "Just got word from Earth Command. They want to send more supplies next month. Looks like we might be getting another group of refugees from the Kepler conflict." "How many?" Hannah asked. "About 50 children. Their transport ship was attacked by pirates. Only the kids survived." Hannah felt her heart break a little, like it did every time she heard these stories. But she also felt the familiar determination that had kept her going all these years. "We'll make room. We always do." Teacher Nam Jinwoo was in the middle of a history lesson when the first alarms started ringing. The children looked up from their tablets with confused faces. They had never heard these alarms before. "Don't worry," Nam said calmly, though his heart was starting to race. "It's probably just a drill. Everyone remember what we practiced." But deep down, he knew this wasn't a drill. The colony's defense grid only activated for real threats. In the command center, Commander Ji-ho stared at his screens in disbelief. 12 large warships had just appeared out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. They were moving fast toward New Sol Colony. "Sir, they're not responding to our communication requests," reported Sergeant Kim Do-yen. "The weapons are charging." Ji-ho felt ice form in his stomach. "Send a message to all ships in the system. Tell them this is a protected humanitarian zone. We have children here from their own species." Response came 30 seconds later. It wasn't words. It was plasma fire. The first blast hit the colony's main power generator. The lights flickered and went out across half the settlement. Second blast destroyed the communication array. The third hit the medical center. "This is not a military target," Ji-ho screamed into his radio. "We are a civilian colony. We have children here." But the attacking ships didn't seem to care. Dr. Hanna was helping to move children to the underground shelters when the building shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling as another explosion rocked the colony. The youngest children were crying, and even the older ones looked scared. "It's going to be okay," she told them, though she wasn't sure she believed it herself. "We're going to play a game. We're going to hide in the safe rooms until the loud noises stop." Somian appeared at her side, carrying 2 crying toddlers. "Doctor, the North Wing is on fire. We need to move faster." Hannah nodded and picked up a small alien child who couldn't walk yet. His species had green fur and large eyes that were now wide with fear. She had watched him take his first steps just last week. Teacher Nam was leading a group of older children through the corridors when the ceiling collapsed in front of them. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to see or breathe. "This way," he shouted, turning back toward another corridor. But when they reached the next intersection, that path was blocked too. They were trapped. Commander Jiho and his soldiers were fighting back. But their small defense ships were no match for the attacking fleet. One by one, his pilots were being shot down. The enemy ships were using weapons designed to destroy military targets, not to protect civilian areas. "Sir, they're targeting the orphanage directly," reported his weapons officer. "This isn't random. They know what they're hitting." Jiho felt rage building in his chest. These weren't soldiers fighting soldiers. This was murder. "All units, protect the children's home at all costs," he ordered. But even as he said it, he watched his last fighter explode in a ball of fire. The underground shelter shook as another blast hit directly above them. Several children screamed, "Okay," and some of the older ones tried to comfort the younger ones. Dr. Hannah held 3 different species of children in her arms, whispering soothing words in languages she had learned over the years. Dr. Salmon whispered, "The shelter door is getting hot. I think the fire is spreading down here." Hannah looked around at all the faces staring at her. These children trusted her to keep them safe. She had promised their dying parents and their desperate governments that Earth would protect them. She had failed. The final explosion was the loudest yet. The lights went out completely and the shelter filled with smoke. In the darkness, Hannah could hear children coughing and crying. She tried to find the emergency exit, but her hands only found twisted metal and rubble. Commander Jiho's ship was falling toward the planet's surface, its engines destroyed by enemy fire. Through his cracked cockpit window, he could see the orphanage burning. The building where he had eaten dinner just last night was now a pile of smoking ruins. With his last bit of strength, he activated his emergency transmitter. If he was going to die, he needed to make sure someone knew what had happened here. "This is Commander Park Jiho of New Sol Colony," he said into the radio. "We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. The Galaxy Children's Home has been destroyed. 800 children are dead. They killed the children. All of them." "Okay." His ship hit the ground, but the transmitter kept broadcasting. "Remember us? Remember what they did to the children? Remember?" Then there was only silence above the burning colony. The attacking ships turned and disappeared back into hyperspace, leaving behind only smoke and death. KZM's greatest sanctuary was gone, and with it, the last of humanity's innocence. The emergency signal from New Sol Colony reached Earth at 0347 hours, local time. Admiral Cho Minho was drinking his morning coffee when his aide burst into his office without knocking. "Sir, we have a code black transmission from the outer colonies," Lieutenant Bae Youngman said, his face pale. "It's from Commander Park Jiho." Minho set down his coffee cup. "Code black meant civilian casualties. Lots of them. Put it through," he ordered. The recorded message filled the room with static and the sound of explosions. Then came Jiho's voice, broken and desperate. "This is Commander Park Jiho of New Sol Colony. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. The Galaxy Children's Home has been destroyed. 800 children are dead. They killed the children. All of them. Remember us. Remember what they did to the children. Remember?" The transmission ended. The office fell silent. Admiral Minho had served in the Human Defense Force for 30 years. He had seen battles, lost friends, and watched colonies burn. But he had never heard anything like the pain in Jiho's voice. "Get me President Han Ji-won." Immediately, he said, and contact all fleet commanders. We need an emergency meeting, sir. What should I tell them? Asked Lieutenant Bay. Minho looked out the window at Earth's peaceful blue sky. Tell them everything has changed. KMS. 2 hours. Later, President Han Juan stood before the Galactic Council on the space station orbiting Proxima Centauri. The council chamber was filled with representatives from 200 different species. For 50 years, this had been the place where conflicts were resolved through words, not weapons. Connor delegates, President Han began, her voice steady, despite the rage burning in her chest. At 0347 this morning, Earth time, we received word that New Sol Colony was attacked and destroyed. 812 children from 43 different species were murdered in cold blood. A few delegates shifted in their seats. Most looked bored. The reptilian representative from Alpha Centauri was actually sleeping. Key, we demand immediate action to find those responsible. Han continued. These were not soldiers. They were children. Orphans, the galaxy's most innocent and helpless. Council Chairman Vexus, a tall, gray alien with 4 arms, spoke in his usual calm tone. President Han, we understand your distress. But space conflicts happen. Perhaps this was simply a case of mistaken identity. Han's voice rose. They targeted the orphanage directly. They knew exactly what they were destroying. Still, said Counselor Helix from the Vega system, violence only leads to more violence. Surely, diplomatic solutions can be found. Han was about to respond when the council chamber doors opened. In walked Overlord Krex, the chief representative of the Hegemony Coalition. Hani was a massive creature with dark red skin and arms like tree trunks. Behind him came 5 other Hegemony delegates. Overlord Krex, said Chairman Vexus. Perhaps you can help us understand what happened at New Sol Colony. Krex sat down heavily in his chair and looked directly at President Han. The Hegemony Coalition conducted a legitimate military operation against an illegal human expansion in contested space. If civilians were present, that was the humans' fault for placing them in a combat zone. The chamber fell silent. Han felt her blood turn to ice. Legitimate military operation, she whispered. Those were children. Krex shrugged his massive shoulders. Collateral damage happens in war. Perhaps humans should think twice before spreading their colonies into space that doesn't belong to them. That was neutral space, protected by galactic law, Han said, her voice getting louder. Laws change, Krex replied with what might have been a smile. The weak make laws. The strong break them. President Han looked around the chamber at all, the alien faces staring back at her. Some looked uncomfortable, but none spoke up. These were the same delegates who had praised humanity for taking in refugee children. The same ones who had asked Earth to help with their own orphan problems. So that's it? Han asked. 100 children die, and you call it collateral damage. Chairman Vexus spread his 4 arms in a gesture of helplessness. Perhaps we can arrange for some kind of compensation. The hegemony could pay for funeral costs. Funeral costs. Han's voice was barely a whisper now. You want to pay for funeral costs? Hasi stood up slowly, her hands shaking. For 50 years, humanity has been the galaxy's caretaker. We've taken in your orphans, your refugees, your sick and wounded. We've fed children whose own species abandoned them. We've died protecting colonies that weren't even our own. The chamber remained silent. And when someone murders 800 of those children, you offer to pay for their funerals. Han walked toward the exit, then stopped and turned back. You've just taught humanity a very important lesson. You've shown us that mercy is seen as weakness, that kindness is seen as invitation to attack. She looked directly at Overlord Krex. Thank you for that lesson. We won't forget it. Council chamber doors closed behind her. Han activated her communicator. Admiral Minho, initiate Protocol 7. Ma'am, are you sure? Protocol 7 hasn't been used since the colony wars, I'm sure. Send a message to all human colonies and military bases. The age of mercy is over. Back on Earth, Dr. Yoon Hai-jin was in her laboratory when the emergency broadcast came through. She had been working on a new medicine to help alien children digest human food better. The work was delicate, requiring her to understand how different species processed nutrients. But as she listened to the recording from New Soul Colony, her research took on a different meaning. If she could make alien children healthier, she could also make alien soldiers very sick. General Seo Dong-yoon had been retired for 5 years. The military leadership had decided his ideas about warfare were too harsh for the new age of peace. He was tending his garden when the call came. "General, we need you back," said Admiral Minho over the video link. "The cabinet wants to discuss new military strategies." "What kind of strategies?" Dong-yoon asked, though he already knew the answer. "The kind you've been suggesting for 20 years. The kind we said we'd never need." Dong-yoon looked at his peaceful garden, then at the news. Footage of the burning orphanage playing on his screen. "I'll be there in an hour." Across human space, the message went out on every communication channel. It was short and simple, but everyone understood what it meant. All civilian personnel returned to Earth immediately. All military reserves report for duty. All defensive positions switch to offensive capabilities. Authorization code: remember the children. In the factories of Mars, production lines that made toys and medical equipment suddenly stopped. New blueprints were loaded into the machines. Weapons designs that had been locked away for decades were pulled from storage on the military academies of Europa. Cadets who had been studying peacekeeping tactics were given new textbooks. These books had titles like Total Warfare and Victory Through Elimination. Captain Kim Taeyang was commanding a simple patrol ship when the orders came through. Within 6 hours, he was transferred to the construction yards above Saturn, where the largest military buildup in human history was beginning. "Captain," said his new aide, "your ship is ready for inspection." K-Young looked out at the massive vessel hanging in space before him. It was 3 times larger than any human warship ever built. Its hull was black as space itself, and its weapons could destroy entire cities. "What do we call her?" he asked. "The New Soul's Vengeance, sir." Taeyang nodded. "Perfect." The galaxy had been at peace for 50 years. Humanity had been the protectors of that peace, the ones who took care of everyone else's problems. But peace was a choice, and choices could be changed. As the news of New Soul spread across human space, something awakened that had been sleeping since humanity first reached for the stars. It was something dark and powerful, something that had been held back by laws and morals and hope for a better future. The galaxy was about to remember why humans had once been the most feared predators on their home planet. The age of mercy was ending. The age of wrath had begun. 6 months after New Soul Colony burned, the galaxy began to notice changes in human space. Ships that used to carry medical supplies and food now carried weapons. Space stations that once welcomed refugees now had massive gun batteries pointed outward. Most disturbing of all, human merchant vessels had stopped visiting alien ports. Fleet Admiral Kim Taeyang stood on the bridge of the New Soul's Vengeance, watching his fleet assemble. 300 warships floated in perfect formation around him. Each ship was painted black with red markings. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a planet. "Admiral, the final squadron has arrived from the Titan shipyards," reported Captain Bae-sulji from her position at the tactical station. "All ships are ready for deployment." Taeyang nodded. The woman had lost her own daughter in a previous alien conflict 5 years ago. She understood what this was about better than most. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Okay, we begin Operation Reckoning. Okay, the galaxy is about to learn what happens when you kill human children. On Earth, Chief Engineer O. Mayancho put the finishing touches on his latest creation." The weapon looked simple enough, just a small metal cylinder the size of a pin. But inside that cylinder was something that would change warfare forever. "Dr. Yoon, the first batch of orphan protocols is ready for testing," he said to the woman standing beside him. Dr. Yoon Haijen picked up one of the cylinders and examined it carefully. 6 months ago, she had been developing medicines to help alien children. Now, she was creating weapons to kill alien soldiers in the most horrible ways possible. "How does it work again?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Simple. The device releases a gas that targets specific genetic markers. For example, this one is designed for hegemony coalition species. Their nervous systems will shut down in exactly 37 minutes, but it won't affect humans or any of the species that were in the orphanage." Yu nodded. "And the hegemony soldiers will be conscious the whole time." "Yes, they'll know exactly what's happening to them. They'll have 37 minutes to think about why they're dying." For the first time in months, Dr. Yoon smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. The first test of humanity's new weapons came at Kepler 442, a small hegemony military outpost on the edge of their territory. The outpost had 800 soldiers and enough firepower to destroy most attacking fleets. Colonel Skung Minna led the attack with just 50 human soldiers. They didn't use ships or heavy weapons. They simply appeared on the planet's surface, using new teleportation technology that the galaxy had never seen before. "Remember," she told her team as they prepared for the assault, "we're not here to capture territory. We're here to send a message." The attack lasted exactly 8 minutes. When it was over, the hegemony outpost was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. Where buildings had stood, there was now empty ground. Where soldiers had been stationed, there was nothing but dust in the wind. The only thing left was a monument made of black stone. Carved into its surface were the names of every child who had died at New Sol Colony, written in 43 different alien languages. News of Kepler 442 reached the hegemony capital within hours. Overlord Krex called an emergency meeting of his war council. "How is this possible?" he demanded, slamming his massive fist on the table. 800 soldiers don't just disappear." "Sir, we've analyzed the site," reported General Vorthok. "There are no blast patterns, no weapon signatures, no trace of what happened. It's like they were simply erased from existence." "That's impossible. No species has that kind of technology." "Sir, perhaps we underestimated the humans. They've had 6 months to prepare." Krex's red eyes flashed with anger. "They're still the same weak species that cries over dead children. Send more ships to their borders. Show them what real power looks like." But 3 days later, those ships disappeared too. 12 hegemony warships were patrolling near human space when they simply vanished. No distress signals, no explosions, no trace they had ever existed. Captain Rouget Young piloted his stealth destroyer through the debris field where the hegemony ships had been. His ship, the Silent Tears, was completely invisible to enemy sensors. "Target eliminated," he reported to Fleet Command. "Moving to next coordinates." Confirmed, Silent Tears. "How many does that make?" Jay Young checked his list. Each name on it belonged to a ship that had participated in the New Sol attack. His AI had spent months tracking down every vessel involved. 17 down, 23 to go," he replied. The AI spoke in the voice of Park Yeji, the little human girl who had been teaching alien children to play hopscotch when the bombs fell. The voice had been reconstructed from security recordings at the orphanage. "Good job, Captain," the AI said in Yeji's cheerful voice. "The children are happy. you remembered them. Jay Young had volunteered for this mission specifically. He wanted to hear that voice every day, to remember why he was hunting these ships across the galaxy. Ambassador Quan Yuna stood before the Galactic Council once again, but this time she wasn't asking for help. She was delivering an ultimatum. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice cold as space itself. "Humanity has tried diplomacy. We have tried negotiations. We have tried peaceful solutions. None of these worked." The council chamber was more crowded than usual. Word of the disappearing hegemony forces had spread quickly, and everyone wanted to understand what was happening. "So now we offer one final choice," Yuna continued. "Surrender those responsible for the New Soul Massacre, where we will demonstrate why every species in the galaxy once had nightmares about predators from Earth." Chairman Vexus leaned forward in his seat. "Ambassador, surely you don't mean to threaten the entire galaxy over one incident?" "One incident," Yuna's voice rose. "You called the murder of 800 children one incident." She activated a holographic display showing images from New Soul Colony. The council members saw the burning orphanage, the dead children, the twisted metal where the playground used to be. "These children trusted us to protect them. Their parents sent them to human space because they believed we would keep them safe. And when someone murdered them, you offered to pay for their funerals." The hologram changed to show footage of the vanishing hegemony outpost at Kepler 442. "This is what happens when you mistake our mercy for weakness. This is what happens when you think caring for children makes us soft." Overlord Krex stood up from his seat. "Are you threatening the Hegemony Coalition?" Una looked directly at him. "No, Overlord. I'm making you a promise. You have 72 hours to surrender everyone who participated in the New Soul attack. If you don't, we will show the galaxy what total war looks like. And if we refuse," Una smiled, but her eyes remained cold, "then you'll find out why humans were the only species on Earth that hunted other predators for sport." She turned and walked toward the exit, then stopped and looked back at the assembled delegates. "By the way, you might want to check your homeworlds. We've been very busy these past 6 months." As she left the chamber, emergency alerts began coming in from across the galaxy. Hegemony military bases were going dark. Supply ships were vanishing. Entire fleets were disappearing without a trace. On his flagship, Admiral Taiyang received the final confirmation he had been waiting for. "Sir, all human civilians have been evacuated from hegemony space. All our ships are in position. All weapons are armed and ready." Taiyang looked out at the stars and thought about Dr. Kim Hanna, who had died trying to protect alien children. He thought about teacher Nam Jinwoo, who had spent his last moments comforting scared orphans. He thought about all the humans who had given their lives because they believed the galaxy could be a better place. "Signal all fleets," he ordered. "Begin Phase 2. Show them what happens when you hurt our children." The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had 2 faces. One was the face of the caretaker, gentle and kind, always ready to help those in need. The other was the face of the destroyer, cold and merciless, always ready to protect what they loved. For 50 years, the galaxy had only seen the first face. Now it was time to meet the second. The 72-hour deadline passed without a response from the Hegemony Coalition. Overlord Krex had laughed at humanity's ultimatum, calling it the desperate threats of a weak species. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Admiral Lim Sang-wook stood in the command center of the human fleet's flagship, watching the tactical display. 2,000 human warships were positioned around hegemony space like a closing fist. Each ship carried weapons that had never been used in galactic warfare before. "All fleets report ready, Admiral," said Captain Park Jisoo from her station, "awaiting your orders." Sang-wook looked at the memorial wall beside his command chair. It showed pictures of all 812 children who had died at New Sol Colony. Every human ship now carried this same memorial. Sick to all ships, he ordered, begin Operation Children's Vengeance. No survivors, no mercy, no forgiveness. The first target was Hegemony Prime, the Coalition's capital world, home to 12 billion beings. It was the most heavily defended planet in their territory. Traditional military thinking said it would take years to break through such defenses. Humanity broke through in 17 minutes. Colonel Skang Minna led the assault with her Special Forces team. They didn't attack the planet's shields or weapons. Instead, they appeared directly inside the Hegemony's command bunkers using teleportation technology that bypassed all known defenses. "Remember New Sol?" she whispered as her team spread out through the underground facility. The Hegemony generals never knew what hit them. One moment, they were planning their response to the human threat. The next moment, they were staring at human soldiers who had appeared out of thin air. But these humans weren't interested in taking as prisoners. General Vorthok reached for his weapon when the humans materialized in his command room. A human soldier looked at him with cold eyes and said simply, "You should have surrendered." The weapon she used didn't make any sound. Vorthok simply fell over, his nervous system shutting down as Dr. Yoon's poison worked through his body. I would be conscious for 37 minutes, just long enough to understand what was happening to him. Across the galaxy, similar attacks were happening simultaneously. Every Hegemony command center, every military base, every government building was infiltrated within the same hour. The Coalition's entire leadership structure collapsed before they could even call for help. But the humans weren't finished. Captain Zhu Zhang and his stealth destroyer Silent Tears had been hunting the ships responsible for New Sol for months. Now he had found the last one hiding in an asteroid field near the Hegemony border. "Target confirmed," he told his AI. "This is the ship that fired the killing shot at the orphanage." The AI responded in Little Park Yeji's voice, reconstructed from the security recordings. "Make them pay, Captain. Make them pay for all of us." The enemy ship never saw Silent Tears coming. One moment, it was hidden among the asteroids. The next moment, it was drifting in pieces, its crew experiencing the same terror the children had felt in their final moments. "All targets eliminated," Jae Young reported to Fleet Command. "Every ship that attacked New Sol has been destroyed. Confirmed. Silent Tears. Return to base. Your mission is complete." But Jae Young shook his head. "No, sir. My mission won't be complete until every Hegemony world burns on the surface of Hegemony colonies." Something even more terrifying was happening. Dr. Ongin's biological weapons were being deployed by human ground forces. These weren't normal diseases that killed quickly, completely designed to cause maximum suffering. The weapons targeted Hegemony genetic markers, causing soldiers to hallucinate and attack their own comrades. Entire military units turned on each other in violent madness, thinking their friends were enemies. Marshal Song Hyun Soo watched from orbit as a Hegemony city tore itself apart. The biological weapon had spread through their water supply, and now every soldier in the city was fighting phantoms that only they could see. "The local government is requesting medical aid," reported his communications officer. "Denied," Song replied without emotion. "They wanted war. Now they have it. But sir, there are civilians down there." Song turned to look at the young officer. Were there civilians in the New Sol orphanage?" The officer fell silent. "Our children were. Civilians too. But that didn't stop them from burning alive." The Hegemony's attempts to fight back were useless. Their ships couldn't find targets that appeared and disappeared at will. Their soldiers couldn't fight enemies who struck from inside their own bases. Their weapons couldn't hit ghosts that materialized out of nothing. Overlord Krex himself was trapped in his palace bunker when the humans finally came for him. He had thought his underground fortress was impregnable. Colonel Minna and her team appeared in his throne room like death itself. "Overlord Krex," she said, raising her weapon. "Cone, you called the children of New Sol collateral damage." "Queet," Krex bleated, his massive form trembling. "We can negotiate. We can pay compensation." 800 children, Minna continued, as if he hadn't spoken. Aged 3 to 16, from 43 different species. All dead because you wanted to send a message. It was a military operation. It was legitimate. Mina's finger moved to the trigger. This is also a military operation. The weapon she used was special. Instead of killing Krex quickly, it would slowly shut down his nervous system over the course of several hours. He would feel everything as his body died, piece by piece. "That's for the children you murdered," she said as she watched him fall. "You have 4 hours to think about what you did." The Galactic Council watched in horror as the Hegemony Coalition simply ceased to exist. In less than a week, humanity had destroyed a civilization that had existed for thousands of years. Emergency sessions were called. Ambassadors demanded explanations. Some species even threatened to intervene, but then they remembered what had happened to the hegemony forces. Ships that had vanished without a trace. Planets that had gone silent overnight. An entire military machine that had been dismantled like a broken toy. Nobody wanted to be next. Chairman Vexus sent a message to Earth, begging for a meeting. President Han Jawan agreed, but only on one condition. The meeting would be held on New Sol Colony, the ruins of the Galaxy Children's Home. When the alien delegates arrived, they found something that chilled them to their cores. The humans had rebuilt the orphanage exactly as it had been before the attack. But now it was guarded by the most advanced military installations in the galaxy. "This is what you protected," President Han said as she led them through the memorial halls. "This is what the hegemony destroyed." The walls were covered with pictures of the dead children. Each picture showed a young face that would never grow up. Each picture showed a future that had been stolen. "We offered you peace," Han continued. "We offered you cooperation. We offered you our protection for your own orphans and refugees." She stopped in front of a picture of little Park Yeji, the human girl who had been teaching alien children to play hopscotch when the bombs fell. "And in return, you stood by and watched while murderers killed our children." The alien delegates shuffled uncomfortably. Some couldn't meet her eyes. "So now you know what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. You know what happens when you think caring for children makes us soft." She turned to face them all, her eyes cold as space. "We are still the same species that will die to protect a single child, which simply ensured that everyone else will die first." The delegates left New Sol Colony that day with a new understanding. Humanity was still willing to be the galaxy's caretaker. They would still take in orphans and refugees. They would still provide medical aid and disaster relief. But they would also hunt down anyone who threatened those under their protection. They would pursue their enemies across the galaxy until justice was served. And they would show no mercy to those who harmed the innocent. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human dominance had begun, and every species in the galaxy would remember the lesson of New Sol Colony. Never, ever harm a human child. 1 year after the burning of New Sol Colony, Fleet Admiral Park Sung-jin stood on the bridge of his flagship above what had once been Hegemony Prime. The planet below was silent now, its cities empty, its people scattered to refugee camps across the galaxy. The last Hegemony leader, Sub-Commander Hexus, knelt before him in chains. He was the only member of their government who had survived the human campaign. "Do you understand the terms of surrender?" Admiral Park asked. Hexus nodded, his red eyes filled with defeat. "Complete dissolution of the Hegemony Coalition. Military assets surrendered to human control. All former Hegemony worlds placed under human supervision for 100 years. And an acceptance of full responsibility for the New Seoul massacre. Payment of reparations to the families of the victims. Park studied the broken alien before him. A year ago, Hexus had been part of a civilization that controlled dozens of star systems. Now, he was the representative of a species that existed only because humanity allowed it. "There's one more condition," Park said quietly. Hexus looked up with confusion. "Sir, you will help us build a new orphanage on every former hegemony world, and you will personally apologize to every refugee child we place there." The alien's face went pale. "For how long?" "For the rest of your life." Director Choi Min-ji walked through the construction site where the Galaxy Children's Home had once stood. The new building was rising from the same ground where 800 children had died. But it was different now. The orphanage was still there, still designed to welcome children from across the galaxy. But surrounding it were military installations that could destroy entire fleets. Guard towers that watched the skies day and night. Weapons platforms that could crack planets. "Ma'am, the first group of refugees has arrived," reported Captain Lee Hun-woo. 50 children from the former hegemony worlds. Min-ji nodded. These children were orphans now because their parents had been soldiers in the coalition army. Their homes had been destroyed in the human campaign, but humanity's policy remained the same. No child would be left without care. "Prepare the medical bay," she ordered. "Okay, and make sure they understand they're safe here. Some of the staff are concerned about taking in hegemony children. Okay, after what their people did." Okay. Min-ji turned to look at the memorial wall, where the names of the original 800 victims were carved in black stone. Those children didn't kill anyone. Tara, just scared and alone, like all the others. She paused, then added, "But make sure they understand what happened here. Make sure they know the price of harming innocence." Teacher Shin Ye-jin had been Dr. Kim Hannah's assistant before the attack. She had survived only because she was visiting her family on Earth when the bombs fell. Now she ran the educational program at the rebuilt orphanage. "Children, please take your seats," she said to the mixed group of alien youngsters in her classroom. Some had blue skin, others had tentacles, and a few looked almost human except for their silver eyes. "Today, we're going to learn about the history of this place." She activated a holographic display showing the old orphanage as it had been. Children playing in the sunshine, laughing and learning together. "This was the Galaxy Children's Home," she explained. "It was a place where children from all species could find safety and love, no matter who they were or where they came from." The display changed to show the attack. The alien children watched in silence as the building burned. Bad people destroyed this place and killed all the children who lived here. They thought humans were weak because we cared about others. A young hegemony child raised her hand. "Teacher, were the dead children bad people too?" "No, sweetie. They were just children. Like you. They hadn't done anything wrong." "Then why did the bad people hurt them?" Shin Ye-jin knelt down to the child's level. "'Cause some people think that caring about others makes you weak. They think that showing mercy means you can't fight back." She stood and gestured to the window, where the massive defense installations were visible. But they learned they were wrong. Humans still care about children. We still take in orphans and refugees. But now everyone knows what happens if you try to hurt them. On Earth, Chancellor Wu Hung-sik stood before the Galactic Council one final time. The council chamber looked different now. Many of the old delegates were gone, replaced by new representatives who understood the galaxy's changed reality. "Honored delegates," he began, "1 year ago, humanity asked for justice. We were told that the murder of 800 children was simply collateral damage. The chamber was dead silent. Nobody wanted to interrupt. Today, we announced the establishment of the Human Protection Doctrine. From this day forward, any attack on a human facility, any threat to refugees under our care, any violence against children in our protection will be considered an act of war against humanity." He paused to let the words sink in. "We remain committed to peace. We will continue to take in orphans, provide medical aid, and offer sanctuary to those who need it. But we will also ensure that such sanctuaries are never again violated." New delegate from the Rigel system raised her hand. "Chancellor, what if conflicts arise naturally? What if military actions accidentally harm civilians? Co's expression never changed. Okay. There are no accidents when children die. There are only choices and consequences. Okay. Another delegate spoke up. Okay. Are you saying humanity will police the entire galaxy? No, Wu replied. We're saying humanity will protect what we choose to protect, and we choose to protect the innocent. He activated a display showing human military positions throughout the galaxy. Red dots marked locations where human forces were now stationed. These are our new defensive positions. They surround every refugee camp, every orphanage, every medical station we operate. Attack any of these facilities, and you will face the full might of human military power. The display changed to show footage from the hegemony campaign. Ships vanishing without a trace. Planets going silent overnight. An entire civilization reduced to refugee camps. This is what total war looks like when humans wage it. We hope never to use these capabilities again, but they exist, and they will be used if necessary. Admiral Kim Do-yan, son of the late Dr. Kim Hana, walked through the memorial gardens of New Seoul Colony. He wore the uniform of the Human Defense Force, but his rank insignia was different from others. He was part of a new military branch, the Children's Guard. The Children's Guard had one mission: ensure that what happened at New Seoul never happened again. They operated the most advanced warships in human space, trained in tactics that other species couldn't understand, and carried weapons that made traditional warfare obsolete. "Admiral," came a voice behind him. He turned to see Teacher Shin approaching with a group of young children. "Miss Shin," he said with a slight bow, "are you giving the tour today?" "Yes." The children wanted to see the memorial. Doan knelt down, so he was at eye level with the kids. They came from a dozen different species, but they all looked at him with the same curious expressions. "What do you do?" asked a small alien girl with purple skin. "I protect places like this," he said simply. "I make sure bad people can't hurt children anymore." "Are you a soldier?" "Yes, but I'm a special kind of soldier. I only fight people who try to hurt kids." "Okay." An older boy, this one from the former hegemony, worlds, stepped forward. "My teacher says your mother died here." Do-yan nodded. "She did. She was trying to protect children when the bad people attacked. Are you angry at us? 'Cause our people did the bad thing?" Do-yan studied the boy's face. He saw fear there, but also genuine remorse. "I'm not angry at you," he said finally. "You weren't one of the bad people. Okay. You're just a child who needs protection, like all the others. Okay." He stood up and looked at all the young faces staring up at him. "But I want you to remember this place. I want you to remember what happened here, 'cause this is what happens when people think humans are weak." He gestured to the memorial wall, then to the massive defense installations surrounding them. "Are still the same humans who will die to protect a single child. We've simply ensured that everyone else will die first." As the group moved on to the next part of their tour, Do-yan remained at the memorial. He read the names carved into the black stone, names he had memorized long ago. The galaxy was different now. Humanity was no longer seen as the weak, caring species that could be pushed around. They were recognized as the guardians of the innocent and the destroyers of those who threatened them. Peace had returned to the galaxy, but it was a different kind of peace. It was peace enforced by the knowledge that humanity would go to any length to protect what they considered sacred. Children still played in orphanages across human space. Refugees still found safety in human colonies. The sick still received treatment in human hospitals. But now everyone knew the price of threatening those sanctuaries. The age of mercy had ended in New Soul Colony. The age of protected mercy had begun, and every species in the galaxy would remember humanity's greatest strength was their love for children. Their greatest weapon was what they would do to anyone who harmed them.